Welcome to Matrescence Unfiltered, the podcast exploring what really happens to your identity, ambition, and career when you become a mother. Matrescence is the transition into motherhood, and it's one of the biggest identity shifts a woman will ever go through. Yet, when it comes to our careers, it's still barely understood. So often, motherhood gets framed as something to push through and bounce back from.
We think it's something else entirely, a capability shift, and we think it's time to name it and to talk about it properly. I'm Rose, coach, consultant, and researcher completing a master's in organisational psychology.
And I'm Bianca, a chief marketing officer, pregnant, and living this experience in real time. Each episode, we take one belief about motherhood and work that doesn't hold up under scrutiny and break it down properly.
Using research, lived experience, and honest conversations about what sustainable high performance actually looks like when your identity is shifting.
Welcome to Matrescence Unfiltered. We're really glad you're here.
We are really excited to get into today's episode. We talk a lot on this podcast about the identity shift that you go through during matrescence. And this week, we are looking at something we have not covered properly yet. Not just the changes in your brain, but the changes in your body too. And we have a first for the podcast, our first ever guest. Gemma Folkard is a Pilates and strength trainer, a mother of three, and the founder of Shape Pilates, an online platform and app with a global membership and community of over 100,000 people. Gemma trained under Joanne Cobb, founder of J Pilates, and eventually left a career in online advertising to teach full-time. That decision was shaped in no small part by wanting to be present for her children. The business has grown alongside the three of them. For years, Gemma did everything by herself, the filming, the website, the marketing, and the financial juggling that nobody sees. What makes Gemma such a natural fit for Matrescence Unfiltered is her specialism. She is qualified in pre- and postnatal Pilates, and she really cares about the link between movement and mental health, especially for new parents. What we love about Shape is the quality of classes, but also the accessibility. It's £7.50 a month, and you can roll out a mat wherever you are at any time. In this episode, we get into the rigidity of ambition and why it might need a rebrand. We talk about the postpartum body and why so much of the healing is internal and invisible. She explains why handing over the baby to your partner early is, in her words, an insurance policy. Gemma, welcome to Matrescence Unfiltered. Do you want to kick off by telling us a little bit about yourself for those people who don't know you and talk about Shape Pilates?
Cool. Okay, so I live in London. I've got three children, 13, 10 and 7. I'm a Mat 3 and reformer and postnatal qualified Pilates teacher. I've been teaching for over 10 years. In fact, probably nearly 14 years. And I started the app after COVID. I've always loved movement, but I think it changes as we go through different stages of our life. And Pilates really got me when I needed a bit of escapism and a shift in the way I was moving from becoming a mother. I used to work in marketing, so that was my first initial job. And I think that is something that's come in really handy when I started the business after COVID. And I love creating and filming and editing, which is what I did at university. So I feel like the Instagram business marketing stuff has kind of all gelled together. But as we've said before, like first and foremost, my job is being a parent at the moment. I feel like it's a very short amount of time to be doing it. So I'm just kind of like sucking that all in at this point in my life, because I know it's going to get very quiet at some point. And I'm now thinking about that bit. Whereas before I was like, get me through this. This is horrendous. But now I'm like, oh, I'm in the nice kind of middle bit, which is it's really cool. Shape has got over 600 or 700 classes. It's for everybody. It's just a very no-nonsense way of moving, really decent quality Pilates, and then strength training as well. So it's my favorite way of moving. And I'm just basically sharing my favorite way of moving with people for hopefully a fairly accessible cost.
And that is something I love about Shape is it is accessible. It is in a world of wellness where it seems to be that everything is a supplement or an additional class. And whilst it is lovely to have access, if you can have access to £35 Pilates classes, actually that's not realistic for most especially mothers, most women. So to be able to roll your mat out in between meetings or in between naps, I think is incredible. And as someone who's done your classes, they are hard. They might only be, 15, 20 minutes, some of them, but they are hard work. I think the accessibility point, I think, is it £7.50 a month, your prescription? £7.50 a month as a subscription. I
It's
think
kind of
it's,
like a prescription, isn't it?
yeah, it is a
Yeah.
I mean,
prescription.
you may as well call it that. Yeah.
And I would love to hear. So you mentioned you've been teaching for over 10 years, you were in marketing. Could you talk to us a little bit about that evolution of leaving the corporate world and setting up your own business? Because we talk a lot about career and motherhood and ambition on this podcast. And I think to hear from your perspective how that work has shaped.
Also, how you've built it to design a life around being a mum and raising your children. I've read that you were thinking about, how am I going to make all of this work? Let me start this business and create something that can work with the school holidays, but it's going to give me that flexibility and autonomy. And you built something incredible. So I'd love to hear more about how being a mother and designing your life with such intention has fueled how well Shape has done.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. I mean, it's funny because you don't often get to talk to people about your business. And to be honest, when I say my business, it cringes me out a little bit because I kind of don't really, sometimes I don't see it as a business, which is not the right thing to think. I'm trying to change my mindset a little bit because I've seen it as this kind of thing that I'm doing that's not particularly amazing, that kind of doesn't bring in loads of money. And only recently I've sort of seen it as more of a business that I'm running. And actually I'm working quite hard because I'd be like, oh, I'm not really working that much. I'm like, well, I am working every day. Just because I've created a bit more of a balance in my life doesn't mean that the business isn't kind of legitimate. So I'm working on that mindset because I've always been that kind of person that will downplay things. Um, and I'll see people online going, "Oh, my business is this many years old, and I've got this many followers. I'm celebrating this, and it's all like glowy and sort of." I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm literally just like, "Oh, my app's launched. Anybody want it?" Because I just can't. I can't. Well, it's just not in my personality, and I think that's a really interesting point to land on is personality when it comes to motherhood and career, because not all of us are very, very ambitious. And I think I've never been like, I want this massive career. I didn't really want a massive business. I didn't want to take over the world with anything. So it's how you can settle within that, but still build something that is legitimate and is useful to people. So going back a few years before I started Shape, I worked in online advertising when it was all going crazy and we didn't even have mobile advertising at that point. So it was kind of everything was building. There was a really nice amount of money in that business. It was fun and social. So in my 20s, I was doing that. And during that time, my relationship with movement was kind of like that noughties mentality. We've just got to stay thin, basically, um, eat less. But of course, that lifestyle was more like we're drinking, we're out on the town, like it was very fun. But yeah, my relationship was like quickly go down to the gym, do a spin class, do a half an hour run, all about the cardio. And of course, then you go straight back into a very stressful environment in your office. And it doesn't necessarily like, I don't think it's bad necessarily in your 20s. You can kind of handle that. It's like children giving them sweets. They can kind of handle it at some point, throughout their life. And then you have to like pull back. Then I think I got to a point after I had my first child, Erin, who's 13. I went back into the workplace and I got made redundant. And it was a really horrible process. So I was in this really mentally horrible place because I was like, I've just had my first baby. I feel really alone. I had like NCT friends and stuff, but it doesn't make any difference. You still feel alone. You're in your house. It's completely different to being in that buzzy workplace where you have your water cooler moments, your chats, your lunches, like your freedom. And suddenly you're at home by yourself and it's quiet, apart from the baby pooing and crying and all those things. And I remember just being like, oh, so now I don't have a job. So what is my identity? But now I'm this new person, this mother, and I'm not loving this. Like, why do people have children? I'm looking at this baby like I love you, but I'm not looking at this situation and loving that situation. At that point, I started to explore, like, I'm going to join a gym just so that I have an excuse to leave the house and get away, because you start to feel quite overtouched. You start to feel quite trapped. I'm quite a creative person who likes freedom. And it's funny when you pull something into your life that is doing the opposite, is almost trapping out, and using quite negative language here because that's how I felt at the time. But yeah, you're more constrained and you have to think more about somebody else other than yourself. And I think that is that identity shift, that transition where you're like, oh, the world doesn't revolve around me. But you can't just click your fingers and the next day accept that. It's like a grieving process of going, I'm a bit angry about this actually. Why did nobody tell me? Like, I don't want this. I want to be free and to do whatever I want. And then you start to realize over the years that actually having a constraint and a boundary is quite good for us as humans. I think it gives you a sense of empathy, resilience, and creativeness, I suppose, as well. We're creative with your time and yeah, that shift. So I started actually going to the gym and doing a bit of like Iyengar yoga. And it was really nice to be in a space with people that their identity wasn't apparent. They didn't know me. And I was learning stuff about the body because we'd stop and we would kind of look at somebody's shoulder, or, we'd all gather around and it'd be like, this is really nice. Like, God, I'm really focused. I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about the baby. Um, and then I started going more and more and learning a bit more about that kind of mat-based work that was slower, that was breathing, that was just connecting back into myself. And I think that's when I realized that movement was more than just doing cardio. It was a place to return to me and kind of learn about myself, how I was feeling, scanning my body, feeling sad or feeling happy or, you know, feeling angry. So that was a really lovely space. And then I got back into the workplace, which was great. And I managed to get like a 3 or 4 day a week role, which was perfect for me. And then family stepped in and we had then nursery after about a year. And then I met somebody through work who taught Pilates, and she was like, oh, come to my class. She did it at her lunch break, which I was like, wow, how are you fitting all this in? And I loved it. And then she said, I'm doing this retreat. It's all discounted places because I'm sort of testing it out. And I went with a couple of friends. And that was a big deal for me because it was the first time I'd left my daughter for 3 nights, which felt like a big deal. And obviously it was amazing because I was like away and resting and sleeping, just like that thing, that sleep. You just didn't realize how important it was. I had some beautiful Reiki. I felt like it was a real transitional moment for me. And she was like, just train. Your body loves this movement. Why don't you just train? I was like, how do I fit it in? Like, I've got a kid. Like, feels like that stops you. Like mentally, just go, well, I've got a kid. I can't do that. Um, so then I just decided to train when I got back, and I did that whilst working. So I was going away for like 6 weekends, training Saturdays and Sundays over a period of like 6 months. So it was a big, long thing, but I was really loving it. And actually during that time, I realized that I was pregnant with my second child right at the beginning of the training. So this is like my daughter was 3 years old ish, 2.5. So then I trained. And once I trained, I just thought I need to start teaching. So on my day off, I would go and teach a local class, which I set up in the area. And then it turned into a postnatal class. So I did my postnatal training. And then it kind of carried on from there. And I started getting a few private clients, and I was squeezing in like a Saturday class as well. And of course, I was pregnant. So I then sort of did both of those things, like working in marketing and teaching at the same time for about a year. And then obviously had the baby and then had a bit of a break. And then the next stage was me talking to my partner and going, okay, got 2 children now. I feel like an adult. Like it's like an initiation for women, I think. I'm an adult. I don't want to work for another adult. That feels weird. Like that feels like I'm the child. I'm the adult now. I want to do something different. He was self-employed and that helped me sort of make that shift, because I don't think without somebody going, being self-employed is good, this is exciting, I don't think I would have done it, because I'm more like steady. I'll just take the kind of maybe easier route of having a very steady job and a pay every month. I would have just kind of carried on with that more traditional way of living if he hadn't been quite encouraging about it. And we'd sort of looked at the finances and saw that it could potentially fit, but we just need to monitor things. So then then I gave up. And it was because I got made redundant again. And to be honest, I didn't really mind. And I think that we see a lot of women coming out of the workplace, or we say that they're forced out. From my experience, the women that I've met over the years wanted to get out. They wanted something different. They wanted kind of to be more in the mothering zone. But they kind of didn't really know what that looked like, because from a very young age, we've been taught you need to have a career. And so we're bringing that mentality of productiveness then into motherhood. So people are seeing it as like this job where everything is like, has a name and a label and a worth because you're being productive. Whereas being a mum is just not like that. It's not that kind of job. It's a more natural, nurturing role, in my opinion. So yeah, I was quite happy to be made redundant at that point. They did offer me other jobs. They were like, we've got other jobs here for more money and more hours if you want it. And I went for an interview, I got the job, and then I turned it down because I was just like, I don't want this. And we were in the position where we could afford it, but we had to make cutbacks. So that's what happened. And then COVID hit. Couldn't do my private sessions anymore, couldn't do my classes. So I just started doing online classes for free, and I had a little bit of an Instagram thing going on about motherhood, actually, more just kind of ranting about the tricky bits, the funny bits, the just down to earth bits. So I kind of used that platform to then go, okay, I'm going to be doing these free classes. Please donate some money. It's going to all go to the NHS. So we raised some money. I got to meet loads of different people all over the world. We had hundreds of people join the classes. And it was obviously, as much as we were making money for charity, it was a place for me to then start to build a community. So then I was like, okay, this could work. And in the Pilates world, it was kind of looked down upon to do online classes, because it's all about teaching the body in front of you, using hands-on adjustments, being with that client one-on-one, really. And now it was kind of all open, like nobody had a choice. And we started to realize that actually it could work with the right teaching. And so the business started. I named it, which I think is a really like pivotal moment when you name something that represents you and how you feel and your ethos. And I did everything myself. I just Googled everything. I made my own website on Squarespace. I did my own logo. I think I got a friend to help me. And then that kind of just sat there in this kind of clunky website that suddenly was growing. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to do something. So then I rebranded. And I kept trying to do it myself, because again, if you're not really believing that you've got a business, you never invest in it, do you? You just go, oh no, I don't want to spend the money because it's not worth it. This may not last. It might just be a few months. Then finally, I think 2 years ago, I actually thought, right, I've got some income now. I'm going to spend a big chunk on a big rebrand. I'm going to get an app. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to throw money at it. I'm going to get proper color scheme. I'm going to get a proper logo. And I got a studio to help me do that. So I actually employed somebody for once. So that took about 4 years to actually employ somebody. And then the app started. And then it was way easier for me to sell it because I had this thing that made me feel like it was my thing, my little home, my app, and represented how I felt about movements.
Sat here as the mum of a 3-week-old baby boy, I can't tell you how much of that has helped me to hear this morning. And there's so much. So, thinking about what you said around, I have a kid, and that almost sometimes being a bit of a full stop statement in our heads. And what I love is that actually you could have so easily made it a full stop, but you actually really turned it into a comma, and it expanded your entire world in ways that when you're talking about, oh, sometimes you can see it as a constraint, a restriction, a limitation. But I think there's actually liberation in that, as you say. When you have those constraints, you have something to design around. And so
Absolutely.
I really, really loved hearing that and actually needed to hear that. And I know that listeners will too. So thank you for sharing.
That's
I'm
okay.
wondering for you, as you go back to that version of yourself working in marketing, what would you tell her about what she is capable of?
There's more than this.
Mm,
I think that, and it's different, but there's more than doing what you thought you were going to end up doing, or like there's more to life than being in that one lane. You can expand, and it doesn't mean that you're going to go up, 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 up. It might just mean that you expand outwards, sideways, backwards, forwards. I think very naturally, as young people, you just have a very linear view of what life is going to be like. And then I think when you have children, it just expands your thinking. It makes you think in 3D. Just like when you get a partner, they have different thought processes to you. They work in completely different ways. They have a completely different personality. And that can really open you up and expand you so that you're more empathetic to other people and understanding and flexible in your life. But I think the boundaries thing is really interesting because that's what we learn from disciplining, teaching children, is that we could have these very open kind of, oh, do what you want, it's your choice. But actually, if I'm telling them, no, this is your boundary and you can do anything within that boundary, they feel super safe and they will then respect that boundary. And I think it's the same with adults. If you were just told to just, draw anything on a piece of paper, just anything, you'd be like, this is making me feel slightly anxious. Like, I don't know what to draw. What are you expecting? Like, what do you want me to do something that's this style or this style? And if you just give a few little boundaries to yourself, whether that's in your life or your business, it can really draw everything in. It's like having those marketing pillars, isn't it? Those 3 things that you always pull your business back to. Your family's the same. We always do this. We always do this. We're a team. Um, and I think that gives your children a sense of belonging within their family unit as well.
I think it's really interesting when you said earlier that you didn't identify as a highly ambitious person. I
Mm.
actually think from listening to your story, you're only ambitious. Like you, as you said, you like pushed the boundaries and like you created something that wasn't there. Like you created a community. And I think there's probably like quite a lot of humility in you where you're not, as you said earlier, like you're not shouting on Instagram and or social media about what you're doing. But there was obviously a gap in the market for you to have such a community in the first place as COVID, like doing those free classes, and then to create the app and for that to launch so successfully. I know it's ingrained in women where we don't really like to shout about what we do. And actually, from hearing what you're saying after you said, I'm not ambitious, I actually disagree. I think you are really ambitious and you have seen this kind of gap in the market. You knew about the type of movement and the support that women need. You might not see yourself as like a linear career path, but I feel like you have created this purpose driven business platform where women really can relate to you and feel supported by you. And I think that is
Mm.
incredible.
And I think maybe you're right in the sense that I'm not ambitious in a way that I was shown was ambition. I think we're showing these women who are all like zipped up, business-like type people, type A personalities, and that's just not me. And I'm just doing it in a different way. And my partner does it in a completely different way. And he looks at me and he's like, but that's not going to work. I'm like, well, just see, I feel like it might. And I kind of go by my intuition because otherwise I can't create if I'm feeling restricted. Um, so yeah, you're right. Maybe it's just a different type of ambition to what I feel like I was taught or educated on. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not always about the paycheck. I mean, obviously, it's very important because we all have to, pay our rent or our mortgage and kids, etc., particularly nursery fees. Like at that point, I was like, what's the point of me even working? Um, but I think success can come from other sides of what you're producing. So even if you're not making loads and loads of money at this point in time, then it's coming from the fact that you have got balance. And for me, balance is the most valuable thing in the world. Like I want to cook dinner for my children. I want to pick them up from school. I want to do all those things. Some people don't, and that's absolutely fine as well. But I kind of, if you're going to have a kid, I feel like sometimes you you have to make a bit of a sacrifice in what you want as well. Everybody deals with it so differently because of their personalities. And we see that in
Totally.
the workplace. Like if you've got a type A personality, and this is what I found when I taught privately with women who are postnatal, they'd come in, you feel the energy, this hyper energy. And they're the type of women who would be doing those spin classes in lunch break. Um, and they'd come in so hyped up that the moment you made them breathe, they would just start crying and they didn't know why because everything was inside them, but they're just holding on so tightly. And it wasn't that, oh, my pelvic floor's weak. It's like, no, your pelvic floor is tight because you're not breathing. And I think that comes from the physical changes of becoming a mother. That changes physically in your body because obviously your rib cage is expanding. Sometimes you're feeling more anxious, so we're breathing a bit more shallow in our chest. We're not using the capacity of our lungs, and we're feeling a bit tight everywhere. And of course, you've just given birth, so everything can feel very vulnerable in the pelvic area. Um, and you don't really want anything to go near it. You're just like, oh. So all of this kind of anxiety and tightness and then the mental strain as well can have an impact physically on our bodies. And so a lot of the time people would come to me and it would be like they can't let go. They can't have this flexible breathing pattern because of these restrictions.
That all resonates so deeply. And on the ambition point, I think it's so true that we have to look at what ambition is to each of us as individuals. You can be really ambitious as a mother. You can be really ambitious in your quest for balance or presence. I think that
Mm.
word needs a rebrand because you're right. When we think of ambition in the dictionary, we have a very specific type of woman in mind
Well,
with
it's like a
standards
man.
that
It's a
she's not
man's ambition.
or a man, right? And we need to think to ourselves, what's my personal definition of ambition? And how does that make me feel the most myself that I possibly can? Now, shifting gears as we started talking about the postpartum body, which of
Mm.
course I'm in right now, I've read that you've described it as feeling slightly alien, which is exactly how it feels. When you think about these women that are coming in, and you mentioned the type A women and the breathing, you just had me breathing there, by the way, way more deeply on mute. Like, "Poof, let's get this breath a little bit lower down." Um,
Mm.
that reconnection piece, what does that look like in practice? I wonder maybe for your journey personally, if you could share, and then what you've learned over the years about where we can start as new mums. With this
Yeah.
body, as I say, you're totally right. The whole pelvic area is like, whoa. I mean, for the first week, you don't even
Yeah.
want to look. And then you're starting to kind of re-familiarize yourself with this body that is inherently very different. Talk to
Yes.
me about reconnection.
Yeah. And also, I don't know if you guys ever, I remember my first shower after giving birth. How
God,
was that for you? Did you look
terrifying.
down at your tummy and just be like,
I just
baby's
alien.
gone?
Yeah, baby's gone. This makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I'm still, it's only 3 weeks, but I'm still looking at my stomach. Everything is so expanded out. Everything is so soft. And I'm just thinking the palm of the
Yeah.
head, I don't know what that looks like. But then I see someone like yourself who's had 3 children, who's really embodied, who has that connection. And it gives me hope. But yes, it
Yeah.
feels intimidating right
It's really
now.
interesting when you say that everything feels like soft. And I think
Yeah,
that's, it's a, it's almost like we've been taught that that's not good.
I know.
Um, but I absolutely understand what we're seeing on social media is not soft. We're seeing, like, particularly these days, different to when I was growing up, very hard, very like everything's
Yes.
rigid and muscular. Um, but I think that physical transition from basically from a girl to a woman
Mhm.
in that shower, you're looking down and you're seeing femininity. And I think it's something that maybe we didn't think about as much in our 20s or before children, is that feminine, soft piece.
Mhm.
Because again, we grew up in this kind of ladette culture, or I did, which was all kind of women trying a little bit more to be like men and having the careers that men had and moving and dressing like men. Um, and actually, femininity was something that I had to really step into because I knew it was there because I knew I wanted to be a mum. And I was like, I nurture people. I like to look after my friends. I like to cook for them and snuggle them up and tickle their arms. I want to be a mum, and then it happened. I was like, I don't want to be a mum. This is not what I was thinking. Of course, as the kids grow older, you can step more into that. But I really struggled to like let myself drop into my feminine sort of vibe because I just felt like it wasn't productive. It's not productive place to be being soft and nurturing and stuff. It's not getting stuff done. It's not a it's a soft body as well. Like, what is all this stuff that we've been told or seen that isn't useful to people? But actually, that softness can do other stuff. That softness and femininity can grow a business. It can nurture children. It can be ambitious. So yeah, that physical thing of like coming back to yourself, I think movement just really helped me because for one, like I said earlier, way of um, escaping the house and just getting a different perspective. When you move slowly in Pilates or yoga, you're starting to notice stuff about your body and that mind body connection comes in because you're going, oh, God, that bit feels a bit tight. Maybe I could just wiggle that out. Or like, I didn't realize this shoulder was higher than the other. Like, why is that? Oh, it's because I've been holding the baby and my hip was lifted. And well, that might be why I'm just like a bit short of breath. Or actually, maybe I'm feeling a bit anxious. And all those kind of body scanning moments that you can have, like coming back into your body, helps you just escape. And it can really have an amazing effect on your nervous system, which is in that real sense of like fight, isn't it? Because you are that baby's protector. Not only its meals, you are keeping it alive, you're protecting it from danger. So you're going to feel quite heightened and breathing and slowing everything down rather than thinking about rushing around the house trying to do as many jobs as possible when the baby's asleep for 5 minutes is so important. And whether it is just sitting there breathing or just like rolling your head around or a nice, like we rock babies for a reason, right? It's because our brains love it. It's a self soothing technique.
Recalibrate your parasympathetic nervous system.
In Pilates, as you know, Rosie, like we rock and roll quite a lot. And it feels like a really childlike thing to do, but actually it's physically so beneficial for us and our nervous systems, our brains, because as the brain is shifting, isn't it? Movement is like a portal back to yourself, I think.
You mentioned there about the identity shift. So struggling with that feminine energy, I guess, and your personality. We talk a lot about matrescence and we talk about the identity shift that goes with that. I'm just curious if you knew about matrescence when you were going through it, and if you didn't and you had known about it, what impact might that have had as you were going through that journey?
It would have helped to have a sort of term to use. I'm not particularly into labeling things, but I think it's like an education, isn't it, for women to show them that there is a genuine reason why they're feeling the way that they're feeling. And it's not just a fluffy thing, it is a physical change in their brain and their body. Because once you know that, and I think once men know that as well, they can help support. It's just like menopause, isn't it? It's just another stage where women's brains are changing and hormones are shifting. And I think it's just education. We should, just like menopause has become such a big thing to educate people. It's the same. It's like the baby brain thing that obviously we want to maybe retire that, but there is a reason why it's happening. Your priorities have completely shifted. Your brain is now telling you, forget about that. Your priority is this baby. So, no, I can't remember that number. And I can't remember the fact that I bought that bag of potatoes and I didn't know what I'm going to do with them now. Like, just all that random stuff makes you start feeling a bit out of control. So, I think it's really important that we have that word. I remember I did look it up. I think I was like, God, this is nuts this time. And then I found that word and I was like, why have I not heard it? It's a bit annoying that it's hard to say as well, isn't it?
Honestly, I do think it would be more mainstream if it wasn't such a complicated word, actually.
Yeah, we don't need complicated when we're, 3 weeks postpartum. We need something just easy.
You mentioned retiring terms like baby brain. And I want to talk to you about the concept of bouncing back and how
Mm.
your focus is more on strength and longevity. What would you have us know about that for a new mum who's looking at her body, who's thinking, I need to bounce back urgently? This is overwhelming. From everything you've learned and the work that you do, what would you have her know?
Oh, it's a really tricky one because, you can preach on this, can't you? Oh, it's
Yes.
just going to take time and da. Actually, when you're in that moment, you're like, no, I don't want it to take time. I want my body back now. And
Now,
I wanna feel strong and I want to feel like I did before. And it's like, there's no real easy way of telling somebody that it's not going to be the same. It's going to be different and potentially better, but it may not be the same as before. And time is a healer. I think it takes around 18 months for your body to recover from childbirth. So people going out there trying to like go hard in the gym at 8 weeks postnatally is not particularly great for their bodies, particularly if they want to have another child afterwards. I think you are in this kind of like little section of your life when you're having babies. And for me, that went over the course of what, 7 years or something of having babies, kind of rehabilitating, going back, rehabilitating, going back. And you feel like you're in this trudging through this kind of time in your life. But I suppose I wish I had told myself a bit more that there is time. Just because when you turn like 40 or 50 and you've had your babies doesn't mean that your body's not going to be healthy and capable at that point in time, but slowly does it. Steady movement, steady habits. Yes, you are the priority, but you have a really massive priority in your child as well. So you want to feel happy and healthy. A lot of the time during this period, it's rest and sleep and zoning out somehow rather than going hard at the gym and being like, I'm going to burn these calories. It's just like actually movement isn't for that. Nutrition is for losing the weight if that's what you want to do or you need to do it. Movement is there to come back to yourself. And eventually that turns into more, doesn't it? It turns into, "Oh, okay, I'm ready to do more strength training, or I'm ready to go a little bit harder, or I've got a goal of this pull up or a marathon, or the fact that I want to be able to run 5K, or I really want to be able to hold my child for long periods of time. I think people underestimate how much they're actually doing in their normal life with their baby. Like, you'll know when you're holding a baby like this for more than like 20 minutes, it kills your arm,
Yeah,
right?
the muscles that you're engaging with, honestly.
And people go, well, I've got no core. And it's like, well, you're standing up holding a
Yeah.
baby. You'd be flopping on the ground if you had no core. So, time, acceptance that this is your new place to live, and it's done amazing things. It's done it's created life. So don't put it down too much, because what it is now is what created this gorgeous baby that you have. So respect it. And when you respect your body, you can then go through the years, expanding what you're doing and taking your time. But it's really easier said than done, and it's a process.
So I think you touched on a really important point there. And I know from speaking to women in my research and from knowing Bianca going through it right now, like a lot of women feel that they have nothing left in the tank. And to even get started with physical movement just feels overwhelming. So what practical, like small steps would you recommend for people to get started? Like what can they do that's not going to take a ton of time, like or a gym membership or loads of money? Like how can women start to reconnect with that physical identity when they're just feeling completely lost?
Yeah, I think if you're feeling really tired and depleted, I would just focus on breathing, whether that's when you're feeding your baby, um, or before bed. I know bedtime doesn't really exist very early days, but if there's a moment in time where you can sit and close your eyes and just breathe, it's going to make you feel so much better. I would also say we're not alone in this. There is, hopefully, and if you're lucky, there's somebody there that is the father or the mother that can help you. And if that means that you need space, you've got to pass the baby over. I love group classes where you can take your baby. In fact, I used to teach some of these. I do love them because you can create a community and meet people, which is exceptionally important. However, never really worked for me. I found it very stressful. My baby cried. I didn't get anything done. So, again, not productive. I ended up feeling a little bit more frustrated than anything that I didn't get that workout in. I didn't get the movement in. Yes, I could have just been like, well, I'm just here in the room with other people doing whatever. We don't have to work out with our children. It's not a prerequisite. Like, hand the baby over. If you don't like the way that your partner is dealing with the baby, get over it. They will deal with the baby in their own way. I mean, that is the big thing, isn't it? Oh, he doesn't do it like this. He doesn't do it like that. Who cares? The baby will survive. The man needs to work out their own way, because this is at that point, really early doors, this is your insurance policy, because you need that man to do it in his own way and learn. Because if you don't let them, 3 years down the line, you're going to be hugely resentful that they can't do anything with that child. So this is the time. It's a nice practice to give your baby over and go for a walk, get out the house. Even if it's for 10 minutes, tell them not to call you. Doesn't matter whether that baby is crying. Do not call me. The baby can cry for a couple of minutes, and then if they're completely desperate, they come home. But yeah, I think getting not being precious about where you're doing your workout, whether it's on a mat or in the studio or whatever, just next to your bed on the carpet. If you're just lying on the ground doing a few little pelvic curls and breathing, pulling your knees in towards your chest, is going to make you notice how you're feeling and maybe what your body needs at that point. It's very unique to everybody, because if you have been a big athlete or like a CrossFit person before, you're like gagging to get back into that space. Whereas if you're not really used to movement, it's kind of a bit foreign to you. You're like, what am I doing? Is it pointless? I think any movement of your body that's going to flow emotions out, it's going to help you breathe and slow down, is very beneficial.
That is such good advice.
It's
And
such great
I can
advice.
almost see Bianca taking down notes.
No, like my shoulders are genuinely dropping. I had a cesarean and somebody told me you've got to kind of breathe into your scar. Like that's the place to start. Because obviously I have this 6-week period where I have to be very, very careful. And you've just reinforced for me how important breath work is and how engaging with my core starts with the breath, actually. So at my next speed, which is in about probably 20 minutes' time, I'm going to be just resting my eyes and just really
Yeah.
engaging more because it's time for my baby and it's time for me too. And I've never thought about it like that until just now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bonding time, but it's
Yeah.
also a time for you to be still. Breathing, it doesn't feel very productive, does it? You're
No.
not seeing any physical changes in your body because it's all internal. And actually, I think the postnatal period is a very internal, mentally and physically, it's a very internal time, which is hard for us because we can't see the changes happening. But every day, your organs are moving back into place. Your tissues and your ligaments are changing because of your hormones. Like everything is healing inside of you. And you're going, oh, nothing's happening. It's like the biggest change in your life is happening within your body. Think of it as a more internal process of healing. You don't even have to do anything. Isn't that amazing? You just have to rest and all of it will happen. And then when that body is ready, it's going to be stronger than before. I always think it's like, it sounds really awful. It's like when my dad used to go, "Well, I need to take the car on a big run down the motorway. And it needs to be like over half an hour. And we need to go up to like a good mile per hour." I feel like pregnancy and birth is that. Like you're putting your body under this nice big stress and it just comes back stronger and healthier afterwards. And I think that's a really nice positive way of thinking about it rather than my body's destroyed. It's like, no, your body's just done what it's meant to do, what it's born to do. And you should come back stronger if you take it slow.
That's so beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. I needed this conversation more than you know.
Babe, it's so hard, isn't it?
So hard. And it's just
Oh,
it's the biggest identity, physical shift, all of it. But the most helpful thing for me is hearing from mothers ahead of me in that journey who are just like, look, because you can't really describe it to anyone, can you? I have friends who are obviously considering, planning, trying, and I now have a new rule where I'm like, I'll talk to you on the other side. I
yeah.
can't explain or describe it to you.
And
Yeah.
it's, yeah, like people go, is it hard? And you're like, I don't know. Yes, it is hard
Yes, but I can't put it into words. Yeah, I'm so with you.
because I think people don't say, like, some of it I hated.
Yes.
Some of it did I love any of it? I love it now. I really love them at this age, and I thought I would love babies, and I didn't really love the baby stage.
Yeah,
Some of my friends really liked it because they felt more in control, because they
that's
got to
true.
pick up that baby, they control what it's doing, basically. I know the baby has its own thoughts of what it's doing. Whereas I don't really love to have loads of control over things. I like to I don't know. Sometimes I like to be led more or like
Mm,
yeah, I don't love control. So actually, now that they're doing their own thing and I can switch off,
yeah,
I love that. And then I come back to them and I have
you
conversations.
can talk
But
with them. Yes,
no.
and engage with them in a different way. Newborns are tough. And as you said earlier, that they don't have a concept of day or night, so you're just living in
Oh my
service
God.
of them, and so we have to bring some of that energy back to ourselves when we can.
Absolutely. And I think those early bits, I just remember even like 9, 10 months is a weird time before they walk. I remember sitting on my kitchen floor being like, it's 12 o'clock, and then looking down again, it was 12:02, and I
Yeah,
was like, "Wha how am I gonna get through this afternoon?" And I would give him, like, a book, and then he'd look at it for literally, like, 5 seconds, and then it'll be gone.
yeah,
I'm like, "What's next?" But, of course, we are in that kind of activity culture, aren't we, where we have to give them stuff. It's like my mentality now is like, "Turn off everything. I'm not telling you what to do. You figure it out. You need to be bored. You need to get creative." But, yeah, we are a bit like put everything in their
yeah.
faces, don't we? Like, trying to get them to be engaged. It's like, well, sometimes they don't need to be. Same for
When
us.
he's staring at the wall, I just think, "Wow, you have such a limited amount of time where that's gonna be fun for you." You don't know what this
Oh my god.
device is. You
Oh.
I know.
But babe, try staring at a wall. I bet that will reset you.
I might join him. You're totally right.
Just stare at the wall and you'll probably zone out and start like daydreaming. And actually daydreaming is such a beautiful thing to do that we never do anymore.
So good for our nervous system.
I've really loved this conversation. It's been really lovely chatting with you. So thank you so much for your time today and for coming on and sharing your journey and incredible advice. Where can people find you if they want to start Shape Pilates, follow you?
It's been amazing chatting. So with Shape, you can follow me on Instagram. It's shape_Pilates. Otherwise, you can search for Shape Pilates London in the App Store. That's iPhone and Android. Or you can go to the website. Everybody's welcome. I'm always on email for people if they have any questions.
Gemma, thank you so much. And thank you for being an example of what ambitious motherhood can look like on our own terms. What you've built is incredible. And I will definitely be joining some classes soon. So thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today.
If you've taken something from this episode, we'd be so grateful if you shared it with a friend.
We'd also love to hear from you. Find us on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And please share your questions, comments, and experiences. This is a conversation we want to build together.
Until next time.